I just wanted to take a minute to talk about not even that, but just to reach out to the people who are in vet med who feel like they're alone. And I didn't really know how I was going to say that. Like, I didn't know how to say, hey, like, do you feel like you're totally on an island by yourself because you're in vet med? Like, what? Okay, so if you do, then what? Like, what do I tell you from there? I've been there, like, totally been there. You don't have to be by yourself, that it is very normal that you feel isolated. Like, those are all true things. And my hope for you is that you join a community, that you find a community of people that you can connect with, because this job is hard and there's so much you can do to make it better. But if you don't have a community of people around you who are also going through the same things, who can kind of pick you up when you're having a down day, then it just seems like it's not going to get better. And a lot of us end up there. I know that I did. I know that I did for sure. When I owned my practice, which I opened from the ground up because I thought if I could control every single variable, if I could control the hours, if I could control how the staff was trained, if I could be the owner, if I could decide what kind of clients that I brought in, I thought if I did that, that I would love my job. And I still hit the wall again. So it happens. It still happens. But it's because I didn't know what I know now. And that is why I do this. That is why Joyful DVM exists. Because when I look back at what I would want somebody to know who's coming into veterinary medicine, who's just maybe been in it a few years, who's getting to the point of hitting the wall, who doesn't have 20 years of reflection under their belt yet, like I do, there are things that I just want you to know. And the primary thing I want you to know is that you're not alone. That this is a great profession, that you can love it, that you can enjoy your job and not have it be your entire life. That's totally fine. It's probably better that way, quite honestly. But on the other side of it, some of us definitely thrive living the veterinary lifestyle where it is all encompassing, and that's okay too. How that med fits into your life is going to be particular to you. And so one of the things I think that we do is that we fall into a trap of comparing our journey to somebody else's. And then we fall into the trap of comparing our lives to those of other people. And that's just dangerous. And it's not going to serve you at all. I mean, I strongly believe that we were all put here for a reason and that we have a purpose. And I just want you to know that where you are is exactly where you're supposed to be right now. And if you're watching this Facebook Live and you're watching me get totally attacked by this cat that you can't see below the camera, there we go, then I know there's something that you need to hear out of this. And I spent all day trying to figure out what that is, but, I guess I'm just the messenger. So what you need to hear from me today is going to be what resonates with you the most. And my big message for today is just that you're not alone. I just want you to know that you're not alone. As far as the things that we do through Joyful DVM, obviously every week I go live here. I try to do some teaching. I've got some different resources that are available to you. But if nothing else, like if you never join a course, if you never join a membership, I just want you to know that you can always reach out to me, especially if you're feeling really frustrated, really discouraged. And even with your wins, like if you just need somebody to share your wins with, like by all means, please feel free to reach out to me. I think one of the biggest tragedies of our profession is how we have purposely isolated ourselves from each other. How there was like something that happened. Like I don't even understand it, quite honestly, but it's like you think about your vet school class and you think about how tight-knit you were because you lived through all of those years together. And there's a bond, right? There's definitely a bond of those people. And then you scatter, which is very unnerving. At least it was for me. Like you spend 4 years with these people in this very kind of tense situation. You all live through it. And then all of a sudden you're scattered like everywhere. Very few of us end up geographically close together. And then you just start living your lives. And so then as the stresses of vet med and just like learning your new craft and figuring out how to balance everything, as that kicks in, your support group that you had to get through vet school isn't there anymore. And for those of you who had a really strong support group outside of the veterinary group of people, like that's amazing. And hopefully, that was with you as well. But even then, for those of us who had community support, if you've moved, you probably don't have that anymore either. And so it's no wonder that it's hard at first to figure out how to get your bearings, because you're not only having to learn how to be this whole new person, the doctor, the one that's now supposed to lead your teams and give direction and be, I'm going to, excuse me, and be that voice of reason and that voice of encouragement for your clients and your patients. So you're not only like stepping into this huge leadership role, but then you're also, for many of us, doing it all without a lot of backup, if you will. And so it's a really tricky time. And then if you've also been transplanted, so you're no longer where you were before geographically, then you're trying to make new friends, you're trying to figure out where stuff is. Like there's just a lot that comes on that gets layered on at that point. And so I think one of the biggest mistakes that we make is that there really isn't that support group, right? There isn't that group of people for veterinarians who have just graduated, and it really, this actually becomes true for any veterinarian that's moved, and technicians as well, quite likely, especially if you've moved geography. You just don't have that group of people who kind of have your back and understand. And so you're trying to take on all the pressures of being new to your profession, but then at the same time, you're trying to figure out how to live your life in this new role. And there's no rule book. There's no manual for how to do that. And so many of us just try to take it on. We bury it down. We like the stress, the loneliness, the frustration. We shove all that down, but it's still there. And then we cover it up with other things, eating, shopping, Facebook, whatever it is. And then over time, we start to see the effects of that, which are usually things like weight gain and increased debt and still not building any new relationships and all of that. And eventually we get so fed up with what has become of our lives that we're like, enough is enough. And we hit the wall. That's what I kind of call hitting the wall. When you just like look around one day and you're like, how the heck did this happen? Like, this isn't what I wanted. This isn't what I expected my life was going to be like as a vet. And so one thing that's interesting and that I wanted to talk a little bit about is that, yeah, vet med can be a really lonely journey. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that. And it's because of the pressure that we put on ourselves as the veterinary professionals. For one, that's one. And we are the natural leaders as the doctors in the hospitals. We are the natural leaders. And so those roles do bring on a bit of a like extra responsibility, I guess. And if you don't have somebody in your corner to bounce some of that stuff off of, then that pressure can become really immense. And then the stress just builds and builds and builds. And what ends up happening is that when you do hit that point where you're like, enough is enough, I don't want this anymore, I want to be happy, like, because that's usually what we say, like, I just want to be happy. Well, what does that mean? Like, we can't even define it. Most of us can't even define it. And it's because we've really become so out of touch with who we are. And honestly, like, I don't even know how many of us ever really knew, which is really kind of trippy when you think about it. Like, we were young people, right? Like, we were young, college age, driven people. We kept moving forward academically, doing these things, meeting our goals, getting the grades to get to the next degree, to get into vet school or tech school, to move on through to get the job. But nowhere along there did most of us take any time to figure out really who we were. We just knew that we were on a path to become veterinary professionals, to be vets or vet techs or practice managers or whatever it might be. And a lot of us never took the time, I know I didn't, to figure out, like, that's all fine and good, but who are you? Like, what are you about at the end of the day?